Good evening, children. Today, let us study about Birsa Munda. Birsa was born in the mid 1870s, the son of a poor father. He grew up around the forest of Bonda, grazing sheep, playing the flute, and dancing in the local akhara. Forced by poverty, his father had to move from place to place looking for work. Looking for work. As an adolescent, Birsa heard tales of Munda uprisings of the past and saw the Sirdars or leaders of the community urging the people to revolt. They talked of the golden age when the Mundas had been free of the oppression of Dikus. Dikus here means outsiders, and said there would be a time when the ancestral right of the community would be restored. They saw themselves as the descendants of the original settlers of the region. So, fighting for their land, Mulki Larai, reminding people of the need to win back their kingdom. Birsa went to the local missionary school and listened to the sermons of missionaries. There too he heard and listened to the sermons of missionaries. There too he heard it said that it was possible for the Mundas to attain the kingdom of heaven and regain their lost rights. This would be possible if they become good Christians and gave up their bad practices. Later, Birsa also spent some time in the company of a prominent Vaishnava preacher. He wore the sacred thread and began to value the importance of purity and piety. Birsa was deeply influenced by many of the ideas he came to touch with his growing up years. His movement was aimed at reforming tribal society. He urged the Mundas to give up drinking liquor. Give up drinking liquor, clean their village, and stop believing in witchcraft and other practices. But we must remember that Birsa also turned against missionaries and Hindu landlords. He saw them as the outside forces that were ruining the Munda way of life. In 1895, Birsa urged his followers to recover their glorious past. He talked of a golden age in the past, a Satyag, the age of truth, when Mundas lived a good life, constructed embankment, tapped natural springs, planted trees and orchards, practiced cultivation to earn their living. They did not kill their brethren and relatives. They lived honestly. Birsa also wanted people to once again work on their land, settle down and cultivate their fields. What worried British officials most was the political aim of the Birsa movement, for it wanted to drive out the missionaries. Moneylenders, Hindu landlords, and the government and set up Munda Raj, the rule of Birsa. With Birsa at its head, the movement identified all these forces as the cause of the misery the Mundas were suffering. The land policies of the British were destroying their traditional land system. Hindu landlords and moneylenders were taking over their land, and missionaries were criticizing their traditional culture. As the movement spread, the British officials decided to act. They arrested Birsa in 1895, convicted him on charge of rioting, and jailed him for 2 years. When Birsa was released in 1897, he began touring the village to gather support. He used traditional symbols and language to rouse people, urging them to destroy Ravana or Dikus and the Europeans and establish a kingdom under his leadership. Birsa's followers began targeting the symbols of Diku and European power. They attacked police stations and churches and raided the property of moneylenders and jamindars. They raised the white flag. They raised the white flag as a symbol of Birsa Raj. In 1900, Birsa died of cholera and the movement faded out. However, the movement was significant in the last two ways. First, it forced the colonial government to introduce laws so that the land of the tribals could not be easily taken over by the Dicos. Second, it showed once again that the tribal people had the capacity to protest against injustice and express their anger against colonial rule. They did this their own specific way, inventing their own rituals and symbols of struggle.